guys, welcome back to my channel. In my previous video I had mentioned starting a series called Let's Talk, and it'll be Let's Talk and it'll be a different topic each video. So I figured I would get started with the series today. So our Let's Talk for today's video is going to be on racism. Now, before we get started with this video, I definitely want to make a disclaimer that this video is going to be presented in and with the utmost respect. I will not make any derogatory statements or comments, nor will I disrespect any ethnicity in this video. I pray that you guys can respect my viewpoint, and I also hope that we can create a healthy dialogue from this video. So I just wanted to get that out the way. Did not want anyone thinking this was going to be a video that was going to definitely be pointing the finger. That's not what this video is about, so I wanted to throw that disclaimer out there. So if you guys are interested in hearing what I have to say about racism, just keep watching. Okay, you guys, so the first thing that I want to mention is that first and foremost, there's only one humankind. When God created us, He created us all the same. I think scientifically there's only about a 0.01% difference between me and the next individual in this world. Whenever we have to have surgery, or if there was any type of organ donation or anything like that, it's not going to be accepted or rejected based on our ethnicity or the color of our skin. So God created all humankind the same. What makes us different is our ethnicity. The different regions, the different continents, you know, how you're raised, and the environment and the atmosphere and the culture and religion in which you are raised in makes you different. Whenever we think of racism, to me, the top three or the main three ethnicities or religious groups that come to mind are African American, Hispanics, those of the Muslim religion, or anyone from the Middle East. I would have to say that a lot of comments, a lot of negative comments, a lot of unhealthy comments when it goes to racism are kind of geared towards those individuals of those ethnicities. And I know that it's because of history. Of course, with the African Americans, you have the slaves. With the Hispanics, you have, you know, the whole them coming across the border. And then with the Muslim religion or the Middle Easterners, you have the 9/11. So people feel like that they have a historic event that they're able to hold with them to justify their feelings, beliefs of the different ethnicity. And I know that a lot of things have been going on in the United States. A lot of police brutality, a lot of derogatory statements towards our president, a lot of derogatory statements from presidential candidates to different ethnicities, and it's really hurtful when you see that and when you hear that. I know one of the biggest political things is that you have to separate church and state, that you don't need to combine the two when it comes to making decisions. And I know for the South, it's really hard to separate church and state because a lot of our state laws are based on the biblical teachings of the Bible. But there are a lot of racial slurs, racial content that derive from the South. For me, speaking from the African American community, I know that there is definitely still a strong feeling of having racism towards our culture, towards our ethnicity. And when it comes to that, I know that a lot of the responses that we'll get is we are afforded the same opportunities as everyone and that we are able to do and accomplish the same as anyone else, which technically we do. We do have the same opportunities. We can accomplish the same things. But what makes the difference is the social class. Another disclaimer, I know that not all Caucasians are wealthy or rich, and not all African Americans or blacks are all poor. I'm not going to put everyone in those two main categories, but I will say that predominantly it is the Caucasian who do have more of a financial leeway than it is for the African Americans. I can say for me, I seen it most when I was going off to college. The college that I attended and graduated from is a very prestigious school here in the Southeast. With it being prestigious, it's also very expensive. If I can remember, I'm pretty sure it's about $30,000 a year, and I did not stay on campus. On top of me not staying on campus, the thought or the idea was if I knocked off from my board meal plan, that it would reduce the cost for my parents' monthly payments. It reduced it, but not a great deal. So on top of me getting student loans, my parents also had to make a monthly payment to my university. And my parents went into the hole, sustaining me and helping me and continuing to grow my education and my life. But with me not living on campus, it allotted me, some people think it was a pleasure, of getting an apartment and living with roommates. Now, most of my roommates were the Caucasian ethnicity, and their lifestyle and my lifestyle was completely different. Now, I do not know what was in their bank accounts 24/7. Only thing I can do is just make a judgment on the things that I experienced living with them for 6 months to a year. So I feel like with my time with them, 6 months to a year, I think that's a good span that I'm able to draw a conclusion on the type of lifestyle that they had. For one, there was constant trips. For two, there was not pretty much a struggle of how their rent or anything was going to get paid, how their school or anything was going to get paid. Matter of fact, one of my roommates stated that their parents do not believe in debt, therefore they pay for their college flat out. And I was like, wow, that's I mean, who has that type of money? Who can do things like that? Because it's few and far between in the African American culture to where somebody can just tell their child, here's $30,000, go pay for your school flat out, and I'll pay for your rent, and I'll pay your car note, your car insurance, your cell phone bill, buy your groceries, and you can take trips on top of all of that. That's very, very few far in between. So there is a huge social class when it comes between the African American and the Caucasians, as well as I'm pretty sure the Hispanics and the Middle Eastern. I'm pretty sure there's some type of difference, but I know that there is a huge difference between the Hispanics and the Caucasians and the African Americans and the Caucasians. With that social class being there, it does not allot us the same advantages of being able to get ahead in life. And what I mean by that is, whereas for some people, or for the Caucasians, they'll probably be able to, as soon as they get out of college, get a brand new car, buy a home, and just have a carefree life, more so than the African American. And I'm not saying that's for all, I'm just saying that that's for some. Now for me, I was definitely blessed. My parents worked very, very, very hard. And what I mean by very hard, I mean blood, sweat, and tears hard, for me, so that when I got out of college, they wanted to make sure that the first place that I moved into would be a home that I owned and not a home that I rented. And my parents suffered a lot behind that. And that's where I'm saying the difference is. Whereas my parents suffered and they put themselves behind, I'm not sure how many Caucasian parents suffered and put themselves behind for their children. So the hand giving is kind of different, to where if you're white, and I'm not saying this to be mean, if you're white, a lot of things are handed to you in a more smoother transition, whereas if you're black, it's not. It's more of a struggle. Now I know with the different situations that's been going on, the different police brutalities, a lot of the injustice that's been going on behind the police brutality, there's been a lot of statements that's been made to where, well, if he would have never done this, then he would have never gotten shot. If he would have never done that, he would have never gotten shot. If they would just keep their mouths shut, if they would just know how to act in public, if they just didn't do things to make us think like that, if we had a better education, if we had home training, if we went to church more, a lot of different statements are said to where things happen, but there's always a but behind it when it comes to the Caucasian race. And for an example, I will say this. One of my Facebook friends, which I have actually went to high school with all 4 years, and did not think that this individual was like this, but after the Charleston police killing, one of the statement that she made was, well, if he would have never ran, if he would have just stayed in his car, he would have never gotten killed. And for me to see that Facebook status, and for me to think, wow, I went to school with you for 4 years, cheerleaded together, everything, and you make a comment such as this, and we're the same age, I was very, very hurt by that. But it clicked in my mind then that it is definitely an upbringing. For me, he should have not ran, but that does not justify the police killing him. There was nothing that that man did that justified him being shot. Nothing. The gun should have never been pulled because there was nothing that he had that threatened the police officer's life. And I think the only reason why justice is being served is because there was a videotape of the entire thing. I don't think that if the videotape would have never been produced, I don't think it would have gone the way that it did. Sad to say, but if you were to take just a month and live in my shoes, or just submerge yourself in our culture, you will be able to see why we feel the way that we feel. And it goes for the same for Mike Brown, it goes the same for Trayvon Martin. I mean, it's really sad. I know that there was an African American guy who shot a police officer, and I think his bail was set at $9 million. Then the Emmanuel 9 killer, his bond was set at $1 million. So one police officer life is valued more than 9 African Americans' lives. That is backwards. That is so backwards. Very backwards. 9 people who were in a church lives is less valuable than one white cop. That's when I'm telling you that the justice system is slanted. It is extremely slanted. And I know living in the South, it's pins and needles. I don't feel safe with my brother going anywhere by himself. I don't feel safe with my father going anywhere by himself. I don't feel safe with my husband going anywhere by himself, because I don't know if they're gonna walk back in the door, or if we're gonna get a phone call asking for someone to identify their body. My husband was blessed just about a month and a half ago. He was riding down to Atlanta. On his way back from Atlanta, he was in a county close to the state line. Now, this county that is close to the state line is a very very, what's the term I can use? Southern Baptist, very Confederate, very old tradition believing county. And so when the truck stopped, because when the truck stopped, it stopped on the side of the highway. Now this highway is a very dangerous highway. A lot of people get killed on this highway. Well, my husband was approached by a state trooper, and it could have went left. It could have been a harassment. It could have been a third degree. It could have been, what are you doing? Why do you have this trailer? It could have been a whole bunch of things, but it was not. The state trooper did help him get to a way station area where it was safer for him and my brother to be, until my father and the tow company came. And although nothing came of the situation, it was the fear behind it. My husband did not tell me initially because he knew I would freak out. He knew I would ask 1,001 questions, and he didn't want to be, harassed by me in regards to what was going on. But after he told me about it, I could do nothing but praise God, because it could have went a different way. Either it could have been a different way in the fact he could have gotten hit by a car, or it could have been went a different way in the fact that him and the police officer could have had an encounter, a negative encounter. So at the end of the day, I had praised God for the fact that all was well. He was home, he was safe, and everything, got ironed out, and there was no major issue. But we as a different ethnicity than the Caucasians should not have to fear that. We should not have to fear that. We should not have to fear that if we're walking down the road, or even if we're just driving, that we're going to be harassed because of a stereotype. And I understand that there are some African Americans who do make the African American community look bad. They say things and do things in public that's very inappropriate. They post things on Facebook and on social media networks that are very inappropriate. They don't present themselves in the best way, and they can tend to be lazy at times. But what ethnicity does not have that? There's some like that in the Caucasian community. There's some like that in the Hispanic. There's some like that in the Middle Eastern. They're everywhere. I can be lazy. My neighbor next door can be lazy. It doesn't merit me receiving anything different than my neighbor just because of the skin difference. And before anyone starts to say, well, you're racist, you don't know what you're talking about, you're very one-sided. I went to a very liberal art school. When I mean liberal, I mean liberal. Gay flags everywhere. Classes were mixed with every type of culture you could possibly think of. I had a white girl in my wedding. I have white people in my family. I have a multitude of different ethnicities in my family, and I am close to all of them. This is something that I felt I needed to speak on based on what's going on in America, and the fact that there is a lack of respect in the sense of there's a hierarchy between the whites and everyone else, because that's how it appears to be. It appears to be whites and then everyone else. And it's really sad. I know in the place of my employment, it's hard to move up. And from what I know, the highest that I know an African American to be, and I could be wrong because I don't know every single person that works for our system, but the highest that I know an African American to be is a lead. There may be some supervisors out there, but in the realm of receiving $70,000+ a year, I don't think that there's an African American there. It's extremely hard to work your way up the ladder when you're black and you're competing against whites. it's just hard. It's just hard. I know for me, I hold 3 degrees, and I went for a job. I went for a position, excuse me. Went for a position. Been employed with the hospital system now for 3 years. And a white individual got it who does not hold a college degree and who has only been with the system for 1 year. Ask me how that happened. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel like that my skin color definitely had to play a part in it. So, all in all, how I basically feel is that there is a ethnicity difference, racial difference between the whites and everyone else. And although it is sad, and although I try to understand it day by day, I know that at the end of the day, it's all based on how a person was raised and what they feel or what they allow themselves to believe about the next person. I can sit here and say, state facts. State facts about my culture, state facts about me, and how I do not meet the black woman stereotype of today's America. But if you were raised to think that black women are a certain way, regardless of what I say to you, you're going to feel and believe what it is. I can sit here and say, although there's a black stigma against, although there is a stigma against black women, they're on food stamps, they have a whole bunch of babies by different men, they don't have an education, they don't have good jobs, they don't have good credit, they exploit themselves, they utilize their physical features to get money, they don't do nothing but wear weave and fake eyelashes and long nails and do all of this all day long. I can sit here and say that none of those pertain to me whatsoever. I have not only an education, but I have 3 degrees, did not have any children out of wedlock. I did decide to purchase, the first place I did live after I moved out of college was a home that I owned, and that I don't do the whole shenanigans thing. But although I tell you that, that does not mean that you're going to view me differently if you were raised with that stigma already implanted in your mind. And so it's up to you whether or not you want to believe and feel that every person is the same way. Don't let one individual lead you to believe that that's how everyone is. Just because a 9/11 situation happened does not mean that every individual with the Muslim descent or Muslim religion or every individual who's from the Middle East is a terrorist. Don't do that. That is, not only is it disrespectful, but it shows how narrow-minded you are. Just because someone is Hispanic does not mean that they're here illegally, does not mean that they're trying to have anchor babies. And what I mean by anchor babies is cross the border illegally, have multiple children here in the States so that their children are American citizens so that they can stay to take care of their kids. That's what anchor baby means. Just because a Hispanic woman is here and working and have children does not mean that they're here illegally and that they're having anchor babies. That Hispanic woman could be educated, she can be married, all of her children could be by that man, and they could be trying to do the same thing everybody else out here is doing. Go to work every day and just trying to create a better living environment and a loving home for them and their children. For the African American community, just because we were once withheld our education, our freedom of speech, and also we were withheld our own physical bodies, does not mean that we are all uneducated and that everything that comes out of our mouth is something of ignorance and that we utilize our bodies as the only means of us being able to obtain employment. That's not every single one of us. Okay, you guys, so I hope that this video did not offend anyone. That was definitely not my intent. If it did, I hope that anyone did not feel that I disrespected them. I just hope that you got a little bit of insight of how specifically African Americans felt about racism. I know I touched on Hispanic and the Middle East culture a smidgen bit. But of course, me being African American, that's what I can speak most on. So if you guys have any comments, any questions, or anything, did this stop? Okay, all right. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or if you want to, have a dialogue with me about this topic, I encourage you to leave a comment. I encourage you to share it. And just let me know what you guys think. I am open for a healthy dialogue. I love to hear other people's viewpoints and perspectives, as long as it's healthy and respectful. So I hope to see you guys in my next Let's Talk video. I'm not sure what the topic will be just yet, but if you have any suggestions for my next Let's Talk topic video, just leave them down in the comment section below, and I will definitely respond to everyone who leaves a comment or likes or anything like that. So until next time, you guys, bye.